Excelsior!
Welcome, everyone, to the next edition of our look to the 1990 Marvel Trading Card set. This is your Laser Time Goobers here, ready to talk about this set that introduced us to the Marvel Universe in general. Like, some of us were at least familiar with the characters or comics by 1990 as kids, but
I knew a bunch of the characters. I didn't know their names. I knew Fantastic Four, a couple X-Men, Spider-Man's backstory, but not a whole lot else. Some X-Men characters. So
the idea that they have relationships between each other,
and that's what this is about, because I love being able to learn more about them. Like, oh wait, those people fought, but they're good guys.
Yeah. What? So we've gone through the heroes, we've gone through the villains. The next step was the rookies, and that's a short one because Deathlock and Fool Killer only have so much to talk about. But now this is the first of probably 2 or 3 things just about famous battles. And in 1990, they didn't have obviously
we should call it just famous battles. For 1990, these are not that famous
anymore.
A
lot of these are things that comics movies ripped off directly because they were iconic, and then some of these are like, well, I guess at the time they were big, but not so much anymore.
In some cases, in 1990 and a fight from 1987 seemed very cool and worth memory.
But let's get into the first round of famous battles.
And like these, like this one, the one that starts it all off, something you'll never see on screen.
The greatest battle ever. I love Thing versus Hulk fights. They're some of my favorite stuff to see in comics.
Yep.
Also because I love the Thing. He's my second to Spider-Man, my all-time favorite Marvel character.
Yeah, I'd say the same for me.
And I love that Ben Grimm always fights from underneath. That he is defined as like he's not as strong as the Hulk, and he usually loses, which is what happens in Fantastic Four 25 and 26, which is when this happens. So Hulk and the Fantastic Four had a brief run-in early in the book, but at Fantastic Four 25, Stan Lee decides he's going to do the biggest Marvel crossover to date. Like, the Avengers come in and the X-Men to try to help the Hulk, try to help beat the Hulk when Thing can't do the job. And so 26 ends with this amazing, like, for the time, Jack Kirby drawn fight of him taking on the Hulk in them all fighting the Hulk in a construction site. But early on, though, he could not win. They fought many times since then, and in all those, he usually loses.
Yeah, it says using everything from girders to buses to high-voltage power lines. The thing slowed down the Hulk enough for the Avengers and the rest of
this is back, to use wrestling parlance, Hulk was super protected back then.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And he only gets chased away. He's not, I don't think he was, like, beaten back to Banner.
I love this art.
The art is great.
Yeah, it's still pretty rare to see Hulk get beat in a fight.
And even already, it's like Thing, TM, Hulk, remember the TV show, everybody?
Wow.
This is a famous battle that was revisited over and over again, but we'll never see it in movies.
I knew the distinction between those legally and canonically.
Well, trademark is usually for North America, or when there's rights reserved, that's a North American thing, at least with video game logos. When it's TM, it's usually Europe and international. It's about, I believe it's ways certain things are copywritten, depending on what market you're in. Like
that's why we have a comment section. But
maybe,
I also love if you look over there, just that they have little profiles, and I love the profiles. They change them up a little bit.
Yeah, but man,
such a good fight.
Maybe by the time I'm 40, I'll see a fight between them in a movie.
All right. Next, another classic, like, if only this could have been done right in a movie.
Yeah, speaking of classic FF.
Oh, he fought the shit out of that cloud, man.
Yeah. So this is probably one of the most important Marvel stories of all time. This is the first appearance of Silver Surfer, of Galactus, of Uatu the Watcher. And this is from Fantastic Four 48 through 50. Also groundbreaking for its time of being a 3-part story.
Yeah.
It was rare in a Marvel comic to have a 2-issue long story.
Yeah.
3 was out of the question.
To have something that a scope that warranted 3 issues is like, well, a giant alien is here to devour the planet.
Well, first a silvery space Jesus shows up and tells everybody, like, hey, you're dead. Like, the guy Galactus is coming and he's eating your planet. I'm the guy who comes and tells you that. See ya. And they can't touch him.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four can't touch him. Then Galactus shows up. He can't even be distracted by them.
Yeah.
He just ignores them and is building his giant spaceship. And as would be the case in most stories with Galactus, first Uatu the Watcher immediately breaks his oath of saying, like, oh, I can only watch. I won't help. But if you wanted to find a tool, Reed Richards, I guess it would be over there.
Yes. And he finds the ultimate nullifier, which in that screen, or in
the picture,
in that art, that's what Reed is like extending up to Galactus to show him, like, you know what this is.
It's nullifying me.
Yeah.
It scared Galactus.
Yeah, it actually frightened Galactus. And actually, if you look at that Alex Ross painted series Marvels, this is one of the stories they deem worthy of retelling as paintings.
Yeah, it's like 20 pages long.
And you get to see like the climax of this battle, like the whole scene unfold as these gorgeous set pieces, and called Marvels. It's a really good book to check out. But the Ultimate Nullifier comes in a bit in series 2 of these cards, where there's a weapons section.
Oh yeah,
and it explains a bit about what it is, where it's like. The Ultimate Nullifier is very vaguely defined as like it will destroy literally anything, but it'll also destroy the user as well. And Reed is like, I will die to stop you. And Galactus is like, well, I know you would do that.
I can read your mind, and I know you would. Though Surfer turns on him too because he falls in love with Alicia Masters, or she like it convinces him humanity is worth saving. And so Surfer is imprisoned on planet Earth. A bubble is put around Earth, and he cannot leave it by Galactus, which is kind of the status quo for him for about 10, 20 years.
It's a long time, and I just read the issues where he is finally able to break out. And it's as simple as thing goes like, well, do you ever think it might just be the board, and you ever try flying out in just a spaceship? And everyone's like, yeah, no. And they just fly out on a regular spaceship, and they're like, God damn it. It's pretty great.
That's such a classic thing. I love in the picture that Thing's got his baggy pants on. I like those baggy pants.
He's got his adult diaper on.
Hey,
this is front-loaded with Fantastic Four.
This is front-loaded with Fantastic Four to show you how important they were to the organization.
And
just to be.
Yeah. Just 6 months later in Marvel, they bring back Dr. Doom for another appearance. He brings back the Silver Surfer, uses it to steal the Power Cosmic, a constant goal of his, because until they find out about the Infinity Stones or a Cosmic Cube, Power Cosmic is as big as it gets. Like that's the most powerful thing it is, and he is able to steal that ability from the Silver Surfer, and he becomes unbeatable. And the only way he is beaten by trying to go through that force field and getting his ass knocked back down to Earth.
Yeah, which resets the power, sends it flying back to Surfer, and off he goes. But this is not even the first or second time they fight Dr. Doom. It's just notable because it leads directly from the prior thing you just read on the card, which was Surfer is imprisoned, then Doom stole his powers, and because of that very same barrier.
And in between those 6 issues, they go to Wakanda and meet Black Panther. That's how much shit was happening in just Fantastic Four issue to issue. That's why in all these cards we say, none of these characters are from after 1968. This is why they had all this stuff jam-packed in the first 8 years.
Wow. Yeah. But yeah, there's not much else to say about this one. Like,
it's a really cool
They will meet so many more times after this and have more consequential battles. Now
this is a big one, and I think it'll be the inspiration for the film Thor Ragnarok.
Could be.
So this,
and I will also point out, I'll bet one of the most recent being 1985.
There's actually a few more recent ones on here, but I will say that this was Walt Simonson, who I think did the art too. He did an epic run on Thor in the 80s, which included the introduction of characters like Beta Ray Bill, the time where Thor got turned into a frog, and also Eric Masterson, the introduction of that alter ego for him. But biggest of all was he said, you know what? We've always teased that Ragnarok would happen. This is it happening. We're going to have Ragnarok happen, and Surtur, the Norse god of destruction who will kill everyone, is awakened and gets his goddamn sword. And the only thing that is able to stop him is the unprecedented union of Loki, Thor, and Odin to defeat him. And it does beat him back, and Odin is seemingly destroyed at the end of it, and it is a completely new status quo, but it was the most intense, like, craziest Thor story ever. Like, easily. Thor had been meandering around for like 20 years, and then Simonson finally gave him the kind of epic scope Jack Kirby envisioned when he created Thor in the first place. And
gave him a name befitting of a South Park background character. It's
funny how 19 years later they would redo the Ragnarok story and actually kill Thor and kill all the Asgardians, and they would be gone and miss all of Civil War. And then come back in 06,
Just like the movies.
Yeah, in 06 and 07. But at the time, this was like, holy shit, like they did it.
So this is him causing Ragnarok. And just reading up on it again, just thinking back to it, I think the Ragnarok film could end like that same way of just seeing Thor, Loki, and Odin uniting to prevent Ragnarok from Surtur. Like, that'd be a cool way to end the trilogy of Thor films.
Yeah. This is great. This is Kraven's last hunt, and Kraven for a while had
never knew that.
He's just a hunter guy who is like really proficient at tracking, and he's hunted everything. So now he's like, I gotta hunt people, and then after he's hunting people, he's like, I gotta hunt a superhero, and I gotta like do something great. And so he decides Spider-Man is his prey. And this is during the Black Costume era because it's the mid to late 80s. So he hunts Spider-Man, is able to like tranquilize him, beat him, buries him alive. And Spider-Man is in a grave for like however long. It says Spider-Man is trapped in this coffin for however long. And in that time, Kraven assumes his identity, beats people up, proves he's better than Spider-Man, and then shoots himself in the face with a shotgun.
And is dead.
And is dead as shit for like 30 years.
Yeah. Well, you can look at those. You can look at those issue numbers there too. That this was one of those first times where Spider-Man had a mega crossover over his 4 books. Or 3 books. He didn't even have 3 books until that point.
Yeah.
And like Web of Spider-Man was relatively new. But yeah, Kraven had been a doofus introduced in the Ditko era. Like he was just he was just such a 60 villain of like, I am the Great White Hunter. Now I hunt the Spider-Man.
And as Squirrel Girl pointed out, are you wearing the lion's face as a vest?
Yeah,
I know. But the interesting thing in this was that I believe it was writer J.M. DeMatteis, who was the regular writer on Spectacular, but I think he did all of the parts of this. He found the interesting 80s grim and gritty twist that Kraven is from a family that has suffered from suicidal depression and borderline personality disorder. And they bring that real thing into it. And so he's committing suicide, just like this was also just his plot to give himself permission to take his own life. That was the dark part of it. And Spider-Man is denied. Also, one of the best scenes ever in Spider-Man history is him digging himself out of that grave.
Kill-billing himself out.
Yeah. And he stayed dead, Kraven, from the 87 here. He stayed dead till
like 2011,
I think
2012.
So, or 20, yeah. It was,
there's a storyline called The Grim Hunt a few years ago as of this recording, but they bring him back and there's not that many characters out. They like you never bring Bucky back. Bucky stays dead forever. And then he comes back as Winter Soldier. It's like, oh, that was actually one of the best returns of all time. It took like 100 years almost. And then there's Gwen Stacy shouldn't come back and other characters. And like Kraven for me was one of those like you did the best possible way to end this goofy character and have this amazing intense story. But then the way they brought him back was actually decent, and then since then they've kind of turned him into the joke character.
It's fun to have him running around Marvel again, but I did at least like the excuse when they brought him back that like he doesn't want to be back either. Like he agrees with you, reader. He should have stayed dead.
Yeah, and he's just super pissed.
His Ultimate run, where he's introduced as the same gung-ho idiot, but a reality TV show star who's going to hunt and capture Spider-Man live on television.
And sucks at it.
And sucks at it, and becomes the same, and jobs out the same way. And more wrestling parlance.
But that's a great set. If you can find Kraven's Last Hunt, it's worth reading.
It was tough for me to find, but this is probably the story I've read most recently from the Famous Battle set.
Now
love that art.
Yeah, I love that art. That looks like John Romita Jr. or the best impersonation of it. I especially love that that quarter view of Spider-Man's eye, just the top corner of his spidery eye. But I can imagine they're at least trying to imitate John Romita Jr. John Romita Sr. because this is one of his most famous Spider-Man stories in his first run with Stan Lee. I originally thought this was when they killed Captain Stacy, Gwen Stacy's dad, but
Dennis Leary.
That would be later when Doc Ock did it, but he did it the same way of smashing a chimney that then fell off a building and crushed Gwen Stacy's dad. But the short version is that Doc Ock makes a memory wiping device and does it to Spider-Man.
The nullifier.
And so Spider-Man loses memory but knows how to speak English and knows things, just not who he is. And Doc Ock convinces them that they are teammates. Like, hey, yeah, we do all this stuff all the time. And he almost tricks Spider-Man into unmasking, but then he's like, no, wait a minute. I don't remember anything. I shouldn't just immediately believe this guy and unmask. And eventually he realizes the right thing to do is stop Dr. Octopus, but he still doesn't get his memory back. Not for a few issues later when he is knocked unconscious in Central Park while fighting with Kazar and Zabu. Zabu, of course, is giant saber-toothed tiger.
Yes. But I can't figure out how Doc Ock is in the air because all 4 of his arms are swinging at the chimney.
2 of his arms.
I guess those. No. Oh wait, no. There is the one. It looks like 3 are hitting the chimney.
Because what's he braced on?
I guess that one that's off camera.
I guess. Like, I mean, I don't care. The structure is great, so the composition is great. So
I could watch Spider-Man dodge Doc Ock's arm all day. It's one of my favorite things.
Really could. Best part of that movie too. Just watching him dodge arms.
Yep.
Oh.
So this is first off, I want to say this is another Mark Bagley one. If those clouds weren't there, I swear they'd be a moon. I bet there would be. So Bullseye was not an original Frank Miller creation, but Frank Miller made him a big deal. He was created to be the Joker for Daredevil, and he really does work that way. Like he is a completely amoral sociopath who will kill everybody and can match Daredevil move for move, a guy who values life and doesn't want anybody to die and have them tried for their crimes. And this was the first time they fought when he had been hired by the Kingpin. And so they, have their classic fight. He can't believe that Daredevil is able to dodge everything. And it's the start of his descent into madness. Soon he'll go crazy and think everybody's Daredevil. He'll see everybody as Daredevil. He'll also, in about 10 issues, kill Elektra. But this is just kind of their coolest fight with Frank Miller in the art.
And you saw this kind of dramatically replayed in the Ben Affleck film Daredevil.
Kind of, yeah.
Some aspects.
Very kind of.
And I mean, when we're recording this, there's no Daredevil season 3, but I don't believe for a second a season 3 of Daredevil unfolds without this fight being approximated.
If you're spinning Punisher off into his own series, he's going to need another big bad.
They've done Elektra, they've done Kingpin, they need Bullseye.
Bullseye's the one you go for.
He's number 3 in that.
Yeah, we also talked, again, if you haven't watched the other videos, we dug into, Bullseye was one of the cards, so we have a video that's just, Bullseye's in there where we talk about just Bullseye for 6 minutes. So
check the playlist, people.
Yeah. So I think next is another Daredevil.
So that leads straight into
Kingpin here, 10 feet tall.
So this is
by the way.
all the same year. This
is the next issue almost. So this was the first time he fought Kingpin, though. I don't believe this is Mark Bagley again. No, there's no Sky. I mean,
when I look at his face, Kingpin's face, I get a Bagley vibe, but I could be wrong.
You're right. That pose is a bit Bagley. But anyway, so after he beats Bullseye, he then follows it to his boss and faces Kingpin, who to that point,
just like the movie,
who at that point had been a Spider-Man villain for about 15 years.
Yeah.
And then Frank Miller realized, wait, no, Daredevil fights organized crime way more than Spider-Man does.
Yeah, the Magia.
Yeah, so let's bring in Kingpin to it. And it's also, something that I don't think happens enough in superhero comic books, where first time they fight, Kingpin beats him. He's like, yeah, you're just a normal guy. You're a pretty strong guy, and you've got your radar senses. I'm a giant man who has 0% body fat, and I am all muscle and will beat the shit out of you.
You can punch me as hard as you want, but I won't feel it.
I took the famous battle thing as something with a thrilling conclusion. Even the card doesn't describe it as that. Daredevil's thrown in water and chains.
Yep.
And it ends with Matt Murdock vowing to never underestimate Kingpin again.
And yet he would do that once more in Fall from Grace. But yeah, Born Again. But yeah, the Kingpin, it was just a classic, you're not ready for me. Tie up a chains, throw him out. Pretty similar scene happened in the first season of the Daredevil show, though that was after he'd been beat up and lit on fire by ninjas. Not exactly
was this the first time
this was
Kingpin
their first
revealed
meeting.
his physical strength, or he'd probably done that
no,
in Spider-Man
I mean
before.
he'd been able to Spider-Man.
I was
got
jealous of
punched
the Netflix Daredevil audience who doesn't know that when this character goes insane and starts hurting people.
Yeah, I mean Spider-Man could still easily pick him up and say, "Hey, tubby boy, you can't do nothing to me." Fling.
Yeah, but against Daredevil, Daredevil has no super strength at all, so it's
Oh.
Ooh, boy. So this
haven't heard Mephisto in a while.
This is from the first appearance of Mephisto. He's been a Silver Surfer villain a lot, but this famous battle specifically is his first appearance from the Silver Surfer number 3 in 1968. And Mephisto is one of many devils in the Marvel universe, though he's the devil that's stuck around the most, I would say. But so they were way into Silver Surfer's Jesus.
Sure.
And so in this case, he is being tempted by Mephisto, pulled down to hell by Mephisto, and then Mephisto can't believe his pure soul. He's like, I thought I could trick you into selling me your soul, but you're too beautiful.
Lifetime of free cable.
You're too good.
You're
and then,
too good.
He can't contain how good he is.
Yeah, he even tries to fine, I'm just going to eat your soul and keep you in me. And then the soul starts turning him more good. he's like, ugh, I can't have this guy in hell at all. Get out of here, and throws him out.
Just a completely selfless being that is the Silver Surfer. So,
and he also wasn't ready for the power cosmic, which is weird that the Christian devil had never faced the power cosmic.
But as we read on his card, Mephisto is not the devil and makes no such claim.
Yep.
But he'll play along.
Yeah. Well, because there is the character Son of Satan, who is literally the son of Satan. But
Satan Jones, he's from Queens. But yeah. Anyway.
I love this art so much.
That's Art Adams right there. Just the grouse on Red Skull's face. And here we are with another classic 60s appearance. So the Red Skull, Cap got brought back in 63. The Red Skull, though, had stayed in the past. Herr Schmidt had stayed in the past as a dead Nazi. In 66, when Cap starts getting his own solo stories.
And Tales of Suspense.
It was a backup book, too. But so.
Can you believe that they had multiple stories in single issues in a Marvel comic?
All by Tales of Suspense. And get Iron Man and Captain America.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And so this is a 3-parter where Jack Kirby wrote it, or drew it, I believe. I think he's a credit writer, too. And he brings back Red Skull to be his new enemy. He has taken over the group AIM, so it's the first introduction of AIM. Red Skull is back in real time. He is using the AIM tech to drive Cap crazy or make Steve Rogers think he's crazy. And he even finds out that the Red Skull is building a thing called a Cosmic Cube. So it's the first appearance of a Cosmic Cube as well, which is another one of those like ultimate power type things. But he can't control it, and only Cap is strong enough of will and pure enough to hold the Cosmic Cube without altering the world. And
I also like that the AIM guy. If Charlie Brown had henchmen,
I've never noticed the AIM dude just like in the background approaching slowly, like, guys, you should stop fighting. This island's full of bees.
Make way for Captain Mustard.
I wonder if they drew this the first time. They said, "Well, this is also about AIM. Can you just draw an AIM guy?
Put someone back there.
Space there."
But yeah, I mean, this is far from the last time they would fight. So
or even have the Cosmic Cube.
Yeah, having a Cosmic Cube.
It's a very recurring thing. The Cosmic Cube would later, I think, a Cosmic Cube even turned into the Beyonder, the main villain of the Secret Wars.
One of those directions, or he became a cube. I can't remember how that worked. All right, that wraps up our first look at the famous battles from the 1990 Marvel card set. We've still got at least a couple more to go because there's so many and there's so much to say. There's so much history packed into each of these cards, but if you haven't checked out the backlog, go back and look at some of the heroes, the villains, and the rookies. There's a lot to digest, but we'll be back with another look at more famous battles.